Hey everyone, Jason here, and I'm back with another coaster cutout video. Today we're going to be doing VelociCoaster from Islands of Adventure at the Universal Orlando Resort. This model is available from the park for $200. This is the full train model with the track. They also do have just the lead car model. This is available for $40 at the park as well. So it's the lead car with the nice little stand. With this model, I'm going to be assembling it, painting it, and also adding lights to it. And so we're going to be going through each of those phases. To make this a little bit easier, I've actually decided to break this up into 4 videos. If you remember my Fury video, it's about 2.5 hours long. I think that's probably too long for a video. The first video is going to cover just track. The second video is going to cover the lead car. The third video will cover the secondary cars. And then the fourth video will be finishing it and bringing it all together. Something else that's a little bit different this time. Typically when I dive into one of these models, it's my first time seeing everything the same time you see it. So I'm just kind of building it blindly in front of you. I don't have the ability to build it, take it apart and rebuild it because I'm doing painting and modifications and things like that. However, my daughter did get the lead car and we've already assembled it, painted it, and added lights to it. So I've already seen a little bit, I've already learned a little bit how to make things a little bit better. So hopefully we'll be able to improve on it a little bit. But I won't be going in blindly, except the track I will be, in the secondary cars, which are probably mostly the same as the lead car, except for the front piece. But other than that, I've seen this base model. I've already learned a little bit about lighting it, and so that should make things a little bit easier there as well. So let's jump right in. So inside of the box, you have a couple of instruction booklets. This first one has the track, the second one has the lead car, and then the third one has the secondary cars. So you can just focus on the one you need. I'll put the 2 train ones away for now, and just focus here on the track one. Also, they have everything wrapped individually, so all the track pieces were wrapped together. This is going to be a secondary car. These ones are just 1.5 sheets each of pieces, so these ones are pretty thin. I don't know how many of these there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like 5 secondary cars, and then the lead car is going to be 2 full sheets and a small sheet. So 6 cars total, and we'll put those off to the side as well. So as I mentioned, we're going to be starting here with the track. The first step is going to be to pop out each of the pieces. Now in the photo of this model, both online as well as on this box, you'll see that there's actually a little round base plate at the bottom that's plain. This one actually comes, it looks like they changed somewhere along the way to having the Universal Studios logo on one and then the VelociCoaster logo on the other 2, and they're round on one side but not on the other side. So that's something that's kind of cool that they've added to the model. So the instructions have it laid out like this with the VelociCoaster on each end and Universal Studios in the middle. So now that we have each of the track pieces popped out and kind of organized here, we can begin assembly. The instructions are going to have us begin with one of the end pieces here. So you know it's an end piece because it has a rounded edge on one of the edges. The 2 end pieces are exactly the same here, so it doesn't matter which one you do. Then the middle piece has connection points on each end and not a rounded edge. So we can just start with one of these. On here we'll be needing 5 of these cross ties. So there's 5 cutouts here on the top, and we'll simply just be taking one of these and dropping them in on top of each of those. Now step 2 is going to have us adding one of the legs. You'll notice there's a missing cross tie here in between these 2. That's because these tall legs here have cross ties on them as well, and we'll slide that up underneath. Step 3 is going to have us taking one of these smaller leg pieces here and adding it to the other leg, just right here in the middle. We can just slide it up over it and drop it down into place. There's also 2 connection points here at the top of this smaller leg that connect to the track. And step 4 is going to have us adding one of these bases to it. And it's going to have us adding the VelociCoaster base. If you've seen my other models, you know one thing I like to do is I actually like to put the bases on upside down because I like to add my own logos with vinyl afterwards. I'm not very good at painting the really fine details in there. So for me, I would rather put it on upside down. I'm going to use the VelociCoaster one because that's what it says to use. But don't comment out later that I put the base on upside down. I know I'm putting it on upside down. That's just the way I like to do things here. And so let's just attach these 4 connection points into the 4 holes on the base. So now the instructions are going to continue on with step number 5 and basically have us do that same thing, but in reverse for the other end of the model. So we'll grab the other piece here, the other end piece here, and we'll go and add these cross ties. We'll add these cross ties going across. And then we'll add one of the leg pieces for the last cross tie, and the other leg piece that's going to add on to that one. And then we'll use the other VelociCoaster base plate. And you want to make sure that when you have these lined up here, that your flat edges here are both going the same way. So like I said, this model is going to have all 3 of these base plates are basically going to be facing this way. We have one end piece, we have another end piece, so we can just attach this one here just like this. So now end 2 is complete. And that so far takes us up through step 8. So step 9 is going to have us using this middle piece. We have 4 cross ties here left, and so we're going to pop those down into place. And then once again, we're going to attach one of these legs in the middle the same way we've done it with the other one. So the tall leg piece with the cross tie first, then the other piece, and then attach it down into the base plate. This one, it's not going to matter as much which way you hook it on to the base plate because you can rotate this one. It has a connection point on each end, but I just already have it set out here the way I want it. So we're just going to go this way. So the next step is going to be to connect all 3 of these together. So with this, there's basically 2 connection points on each of the ends, and then the 2 little hole cutouts here in the middle. So we're just going to snap these together. With this, you do want to make sure that it snaps together straight. Right there, I didn't quite get it lined up. It wasn't flat. You might be able to press it a little bit, but not a ton. Once it's locked in there, it's actually locked in there pretty good. And so that's going to create the entire support system for the track. One thing you may notice, this thing is very long. It's a lot longer than the other full train models. It's a full 35 inches. So step 15 is going to have us begin the track pieces. So with the track pieces, these are your end pieces. You'll know that because they have no attachment points on 2 of the ends. These are identical. We'll put those off to the side. We're going to actually start with the middle pieces here. And it doesn't really matter which direction you put these on, but you do want to make sure, so there's 4 connection points here, so you want to leave 4 here on the end, and then go to the next one. And then we'll just simply, with each of the cross ties, press down on the connection points. And then we can move on to the second piece here. So one of the nice things with the track here, so the spine is divided into 3 pieces. The track is divided into 4. This is just going to help hold it all together because these connection points here between the spines are actually fairly weak. But having the track piece holding it together will make, you can see this one's a lot more rigid now, it's not bending, where this one is very flexible still. So we'll move on to the other middle piece. So now we have the 2 middle track pieces installed, we can move on to the end ones. Here, it doesn't matter which one you do first. Here I have the female connectors on this end, so I'm going to get the end piece with the male connectors. Also, it looks like one of the male connectors on this one broke here. We're going to have to do a little bit of something there to hold that together. That one actually broke a little bit as it popped out. But we're going to start here at this end. Like I said, this one has the male connector, so we'll drop it into the female connectors here. And then connect the cross ties. And then we'll do the other end. So there we have the track completed as the instructions say. There are a couple connections here that didn't hold right. That's something we're going to deal with here in a little bit. If you're not going to paint your model or anything, if you're done with it at this point, then you're done as far as the instructions go. That goes through step 18. Or 16, I guess, and 17 has you start adding the train run, about 20 minutes in. But if you've seen any of my other models, you know that I'm probably not done at this point. There's actually a few extra things I want to do. I am going to paint it black, just like you'd see on the actual model. But before that, there's a few modifications that I want to do to this. One of the things that I've wanted to do on a lot of these models is try to figure out how to make everything cylindrical here. the rails on the track, the supports, as well as the beam. After I finished the Fury 325 model, I actually added cylindrical supports to it, and I think it looks a little bit better, so I'll show that here in the video so you can see that. So I have some ideas here for how to do that with VelociCoaster as well. So the first thing we're going to tackle here is the rails on the coaster, and for that I have these 1/2-inch split wood dowels. I purchased these either on Amazon or eBay. Wherever I purchased them, I'll put a link down below to them. But they're basically just perfectly split wood dowels, and they're the exact right width for the railing on this coaster. So I'm going to install these on here to kind of add rails. I'm only going to do it on the top. I was hoping that I would be able to do it on the top and bottom. However, after they arrived, I did a little bit of measurement, and the wheels just don't fit over them completely. So we're at least going to round the top of the rails. This will also add some support and, like I said, straighten out places on the flat track where it didn't quite come together just right. So we're going to have to basically do one and then a second one. Looks like we're going to have to cut about 1 inch off the end there. Wherever I purchase these from, though, I will have a link down below in the description. To add it on, I'm simply just going to add a little bit of glue here, and then I have a couple of clamps here that we're going to clamp it down, let it dry, and then we'll move on to the next one. So I'm going to attach each of these rails really quickly, and then we'll move on. So the glue's been clamped here for about 40 minutes. It says it needs about 30 minutes to set, so you really want to clamp it for at least 30 minutes to kind of hold it in place. It does take about 24 hours to fully dry, but as you can see, they're both rails are now on there, and they're holding in place. Now the next piece I want to work on is the spine. Here you can see I've actually purchased a 1-inch dowel as well, and I've cut it into 32 little pieces that can fit into these spine sections, so it's the same size. They're a little bit loose in there. We can fill that gap a little bit with wood filler when we get to that point. You don't want them too tight, and it's really hard to cut them all exactly the same size. Also for the end pieces, I do have 2 smaller pieces for each end. And so with this, once again, we'll glue on 2 pieces, kind of a section, and then we'll tape around it to hold it in place. And the tape, like I said, needs to stay there for 30 minutes. I'm probably going to start here at the section that has the connection point. I'm just going to put the tape there. We'll grab 2 of these blocks here, just put a little bit of glue on them, and then we'll just kind of press them into place. And then once we have them there in place, you want to make sure that they're lined up, and then we'll just take this tape here. I'm using painter's tape. Really any kind of loose fitting tape. You don't want something probably super strong will do, but we can just kind of tape that, and that will hold those 2 pieces in place, like I said, 1 on each side. And that's going to hopefully create a complete spine once we fill in each of the little gaps there with wood filler. So now I'm going to go along and do that with each of these sections. So there we've completed installing all of the dowels. Hopefully you can start to see kind of what the vision is with this. The first ones we installed probably have already been setting up for about 30 minutes, which is how long they need to be set up for. However, we're just going to let this whole thing set up for probably 45 minutes, and then we'll move on to building up the supports. So there you can see the spine is now done. It's dry. I've removed the tape. It's looking really good. Definitely adds a little bit of heft to the model here. So the last thing we're going to be adding to the track before we fill, and we're going to be using wood filler here to fill in the gaps and stuff between the different wood pieces, is the supports. Now for the supports, I got this 1/2-inch by 1/2-inch trim piece from Home Depot. I bought 5 feet of it. I bought 5 feet of the trim. This is what's left of it. I've cut pieces over here, so it looks like you could probably get by with about 4 feet instead. They do sell it by the foot. It was about $1 a foot, so not too bad. I also cut just a slight angle here And so these pieces are basically going to fit right here on each of the 4 corners of this support. So we'll put 4 of these on, and then we'll tape it around. I'm also going to push them up as close to the top as possible. I did cut them at an angle. There's still a small gap there. There's also going to be a small gap at the bottom. But what this is going to allow us to do is basically, I think the wood filler is better in smaller areas. So rather than doing one big area at the top to fill in, we'll do a smaller area at the top and a smaller area at the bottom. And cutting these to the exact measurements is really difficult to do. So I'm going to quickly glue each of these in place. And then, like I said, I'll get a piece of this blue painter's tape once again to tape around it and hold it in place. So that's going to complete the wooden additions here. You can kind of see everything's kind of cylindrical now. There's definitely some gaps in there, and that's what we're going to take care of next. So we have this wood filler here. I have the natural color. You could really use any color you want. This one blends in the most, but since I'm going to be painting it, it doesn't matter as much. And so basically I can take this wood filler now and I can use this to fill, first of all, any tabs that are going to be visible. So on the top of the track, there's 2 for each cross tie. I'm probably not going to fill all of them. Most of the ones in the middle are probably going to be hidden, but I will fill the first 2 on each end, just to make sure that nothing's visible there. That being said, you may not be able to see anything regardless because of the paint that we do. But just to be sure, I'm going to grab just a little bit of this wood filler and just put it over each of these little dots here. And then just kind of press it in, wipe it away. Like I said, make sure that it's just kind of covered there. Just for these first 2 cross ties. We'll do the same thing at the other end. Now the next thing we're going to need to fill in is going to be the spine, or the spaces between basically the dowels. So basically where these cross ties are. And for that, I'm going to lay this down and just kind of do one side at a time. And then we'll just come on here and we'll just kind of come around each of these, put a little bit of wood filler in here. And then I'll just kind of smooth it off with my finger. We may need to go over them a couple times, and that's fine. We're just gonna, like I said, fill in each of the holes. You wanna have it on there a little bit excessive. It's really easy to just push it all the way down in the hole, and then have a little bit of an indent, which we don't want. We can get rid of the excessive putty by sanding it, which is what the next step will be after this is dry. But I'll just kind of go along and fill in each of these gaps now. So there you can see the spline completely filled in. There are a few small gaps and stuff that still need to be patched, but when it's this wet, it's kind of hard to work with. There's also, it'll shrink a little bit as we do it. So we're gonna let it dry for the most part before we go over it again. And then once we have the second coat done of the wood filler, then we'll take our sandpaper to it and just sand it really smooth into a rod. So the next step is gonna be to kind of do the same thing with each of the legs. So I'm gonna start here with the leg that I did first, and we'll untape it. We're just gonna untape these one at a time as necessary. And then, like I said, we're gonna fill in a lot of pieces on the leg. So we're gonna have to fill in the little gaps at the bottom of the leg. We're gonna have to fill in on the side splines here. There's just the trim that we used was just a little bit, sticks out just a little bit from where the other piece was. So we're gonna fill that in. And then we'll also fill in the little gap here created at the top. So now that we have the tape off this first one, I'll just kind of go around the pieces of this and fill it in, and then we'll remove, like I said, the tape from each of those one by one and do them as well. So you can kind of see it looks a little bit messy now. A lot of that will clean up when we sand it. It'll look a lot better. And then the differences in wood color will ultimately be covered by the paint. but we can't sand it yet. We need to let this wood putty dry probably for about an hour before we sand it. I've tried to do it faster than that. It says, it actually says you can sand it after 15 minutes or deep repairs after 2 to 8 hours. So we'll probably let it dry for about an hour, come back and then sand it. So now that we've given the putty a chance to dry for the most part, it's time to move on to sanding. So for sanding, I have my little power sander here. I also have kind of a coarse sandpaper as well as a fine sandpaper. So this will get rid of a little bit more, and then this will kind of do like the finishing touch. I also have a little portable vacuum here that I can use to clean up as we go along, because with as much sanding as we're going to be doing here, there's going to be quite a mess to clean up. So let's get started. So there I feel like we've done a pretty good job sanding it, filling in the gaps. May not be completely perfect. I may do a little bit more touch up along here, but we're really getting close to the point that we can actually move on to painting this model. So before we paint it, we're gonna wanna use, I have some compressed air that I've gotten here. You're gonna wanna make sure that there's no dust left anywhere on the model. That's gonna affect the painting. You could probably wipe it down too if you wanted. I just don't wanna get it wet. But we're just gonna kind of go along here and blow it all off with the compressed air. And now it's time to paint. So with my previous models, every model I've done so far, I've done everything by brush. However, this is the first model I've had where everything is one color. The track, and by doing it by brush, there's a lot to paint here. These cross ties take a lot of time getting in all the cracks. And so to speed it up, I've decided this time I'm gonna move on and paint it with spray paint. I'm not gonna paint it in here. We'll take this outside and paint it and get to that point. So here we have the completely assembled and painted track segment for VelociCoaster. I think it looks really good. I thought I might have to do a clear coat on the top, however the black spray paint I did, I feel like has the right sheen of black. You can kind of see a little bit of the connection points, but the black does a pretty good job of hiding them. So the last thing I'm gonna do with the track is I'm gonna put the logos on here. As I mentioned at the start of the video, we do have the logos on the bottom of the base plates. You can just use those ones if you want. But I choose to do other ones. I have a vinyl cutter. So I'm gonna use the logos that I cut from my vinyl cutter and put those on. So first off, we have the VelociCoaster logo. We're gonna put that in the middle. I have 3 different logos. I have a Universal Orlando Resort one, I have an Islands of Adventure one, and I have a VelociCoaster one. I put a lot of thought process into thinking which one I wanted to put where, but I think I'm gonna do VelociCoaster on the middle one, Islands of Adventure on the left, and then Universal Orlando Resort on the right. So there we have our 3 decals applied there. So I decided to do 2 additional decals as well. I just created, with the round spine on the track now for each end, I created just the Jurassic World logo in blue. I think that'll look really good with the blue lights and everything. And so we're gonna just apply one of these to each end of the spine as well. So there we have those logos applied as well. And so that's gonna complete the track for VelociCoaster. Once again, this is the VelociCoaster cutout from Universal's Islands of Adventure. And that'll also complete our first video here in the series. Be sure to tune in for video 2 where I'm gonna be tackling the lead car. With that, we're gonna be doing some modification to it as well as adding lighting to the car. So the lights behind the seat as well as in the front of the train, we'll be putting that in place as well. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button down below. If you didn't like it, that's okay as well. If you want to see more videos like this, including the rest of the videos in this series and other Nano Coaster videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching and have a great day.